Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Hyper Echelon, a retro-inspired mission-based shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Gango Games, Hyper Echelon originally released for the PC in late 2021. Now fast forward to May 2022 and it's available for the Nintendo Switch. Of course, that's the version we're looking at today. So this title is a really fun shoot 'em up that I've quite enjoyed my time with. I've basically played all the way through the entire game and spent quite a bit of time grinding and upgrading my ship as well, so that being said, I can definitely recommend this title, with a couple caveats. You have to be able to enjoy grindy shoot 'em ups, and also be alright with some stages that can occasionally get frustrating. If that's okay with you, then this is definitely a title that I can recommend, especially given that I feel there's a lot of content for the price point. Diving into the game itself, so before we start with the missions, just like looking at the other screens real quick. So you have a progress screen that tracks the in-game achievements. There's also star cards, which we'll get to in a moment, and some decent options here. You can change some of the settings as far as your master volume, your language, and vibration, but there's also the ability to customize controls, and some of the titles I've played recently haven't had that option, so I really appreciate it when it's there. In addition, there's also a nice media gallery, which is wonderful, as I do like some of the media that this game has. As far as modes are concerned, you've got the main meat of the game, missions, but there's also this awesome survival mode, and this is basically going to be your score attack mode. It's basically an endless score attack with an online leaderboard, so if you're looking to challenge yourself after you've played through the game itself, this is a wonderful way to do it. And there's also a boss rush, so you can challenge the individual bosses once you've unlocked them, or once you have all the stages unlocked, and you can challenge the boss gauntlet style. Starting the missions, we're taken to this screen here. So you can see that all the stages are laid out. There are 10 total stages throughout the course of the game. In addition, there's also your mothership for upgrading, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Selecting a stage, we're taken to this difficulty selection. So the difficulty selection always looks like this, and initially you only have the one difficulty, Rookie. There are 4 objectives, and once you complete those objectives, you'll unlock the next difficulty. Complete those objectives, you'll unlock the next, so on and so forth, up through the 4th and hardest difficulty, Master. So we'll be showing off the game just on Rookie to keep it simple. Once you select your difficulty, we're taken to the mission briefing. Here we select our pilot. There's 2 pilots you can select between, and functionally they're identical, they just have different voice lines. So you've got Taz and Sudi. I'll be taking Sudi. In addition to that, after you've played through the first stage the first time through, you'll start unlocking wingmen. The 3 wingmen are T-Rex, Red Wing, and Thexter. We'll start showing off Thexter, as he's the last one you would get, so you can kind of just get an idea of what kind of gameplay you've got. They all have different kind of shots, different abilities, so and some of them will be better for other stages than some of the other wingmen, so that's kind of neat. One thing that's really important about the wingmen, you can play the game co-op with a second player controlling the wingman. Otherwise, they're just pinned to your ship at a 45-degree angle behind the ship itself. And there's some difficulties, but I'll get to that in a second. So once you have all this selected, we can launch. If you're playing through this game the first time, you'll get a lot of story and some nice cutscenes, but otherwise it just drops us into the gameplay. So as far as your controls, it's relatively simple. We can move around in standard vertical scrolling shoot 'em up style, and we have a shot. At this point, things actually look kind of busy. This is with things fairly upgraded. Real quick, here's just the way that the game would look when you're first starting out. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the HUD. So in the top left you see our character portrait, and then to the right of that you've got all these plasma pods. Those plasma pods we collect through a couple different methods, and they'll ultimately power our special weapons, which are shown below. So you can see a special weapon there. It looks kind of like a shield with on the X button. Y is kind of a bullet time, and B is a bomb. Below that, in the very bottom corner, we've got an indicator for gold that we've collected in the stage, which we'll get to in a moment, but that's very, very important. You've got your speed represented by kind of the fast forward symbol there, and then in this case the 2, and your fire rate, which is kind of looks like a shot with the 3. And then scroll under that, and then the objectives are represented below that. So if you've got playing the stage for the first time and you haven't completed the objectives, if it's still possible to complete the objective, they'll be in blue. They'll turn black if it's impossible to complete the objective, and orange if it's been completed in that stage. Then, of course, if you're playing a difficulty where they're all completed, then you see them in gold. So quite a bit there. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the game itself. So as we defeat these enemies, they're dropping these gold that we can use to ultimately power up our ship. And I'll show that in just a little bit. In addition, there's these really cute space kraken and sometimes crystals that we can get to get the plasma that will ultimately power our special weapons. Occasionally, we'll also have enemies that are coded in yellow. Defeating those enemies will give us the option to get some power-ups. Those power-ups cycle between speed, fire rate, and ultimately here's one, money and health. So this game does use a health system. You can see the health bars next to the character portraits. And depending on how much you've upgraded your ship's armor will depend on how much damage you take from an enemy shot or an enemy collision. It's also dependent on what your difficulty setting as well. The higher the difficulty, the higher the damage will be from the individual shots that and collisions that the enemies will have. So that's basically the main gameplay. Let's talk a little bit about the wingman, like in this case, Thexter. So Thexter has this like wavy shock shot. It's not very powerful and does take quite a few shots to defeat an enemy, but it stuns the enemy. In addition to that, every wingman has a shield and also an offensive attack. So we also have a shield, and we can use that against this first boss here. So the first boss is relatively basic. We just have to destroy the claws. It opens up the core, blast the core, there's a brief flash, and boom, that's the stage. Then we get our results screen. It comes in a couple different levels. So the first results screen will show how much gold we collected, and you can also get star cards, which are basically look like these discs, which will unlock special abilities or add abilities to your wingman or your ship, or like just your base save file as is. So normally, like as an example, we would just be getting 1 times our gold, but because of the star cards that we've unlocked, we have a 1.3 multiplier to our gold. Bam! So we're taken to our next results screen, and this is the one that kind of summarizes how we've done with the various mission objectives. You can see that in this case we achieved all of them, so this would have been a perfect run. We also took a little bit of damage, so that lowers our gold multiplier, but in addition to that 1.3, we also got a 1.5 and a grade of S. So now once we find ourselves back at the main menu here, so you can play through 4 difficulties on every stage. And the higher difficulties will give you more multipliers to your gold, so that would be one reason. In addition to that, you need to complete those objectives, basically getting the medals for completing them to unlock stages throughout the course of your gameplay. So it's very important, and you'll likely have to go through and play through multiple stages multiple times to get enough medals to unlock the later stages in the game. So the gold is really important as we can upgrade our ship. So
At your service.
Here is a screen of what it looks like when you're just getting started. And here's what it looks like where I'm at now. So we have all this gold, and as you upgrade it, the ship itself, the Titan, starts to change in appearance, like from that very plain look to this rather decked out version we have now. So we can upgrade the money into the cannons. You can also add on the lasers, the drones, armor, so you take less damage, radio to go and call in the support character Shadow more frequently. We also have the 3 powered abilities, the shield, the focus, this is your bullet time, and the bomb. I haven't put much into those, so they're relatively weak compared to what they could be, as I was just focusing on upgrading the main part of the ship itself, which is, of course, your armor and your cannon. It does give you some nice information when you're doing the upgrades, so that's pretty neat to see, actually. It's like where on the ship the part is, how much it's upgrading it, and you can like pull up additional information about the parts as well. So I really love the way they did the upgrade screen. So we're going to move on to and show you another stage and another wingman. So we'll move to the second stage, Nova System. So here, once again, you can see there's the multiple difficulties. We've unlocked all the way to Master in this case, but we'll go back to Rookie. So for this one, the Wingman T-Rex actually has a special ability. So there's slime bubbles that are everywhere in this stage, Crypto. And they'll attach to your ship and slow you down, unless you're playing as T-Rex, in which case the bullets will, or rather the bubbles, will basically just get sliced by his ship and he won't be affected by it. Pretty neat. One thing that you can also see is throughout the course of the gameplay, you'll unlock colors as well. So in the case of even the Titan, our ship, we can change between the original silver color or a black color. And we've got 3 colors unlocked for both T-Rex and Red Wing. Unfortunately, nothing for Thexter at this point. Launching, we'll see the second stage. So one thing I mentioned earlier is there is the media stage. So before you start the stage the first time, you'll see this like cute little animation here, and that's present for all the stages. Some are more cute than others are a little bit more threatening, but I just like that information. So let's talk a little bit about the second wingman that we are going as, T-Rex here, basically the lizard or dinosaur, as you would want to call him. So his shot is really unique. It's these piercing blades that he fires out in diagonals from his ship. So depending on the stage, you could have real advantage to both him firing in diagonals and also the fact that it pierces. So occasionally you might have noticed in the first stage there'll be these enemies that appear black and with like a little tentacles waving out of them. Those are infected enemies, and they're kind of frustrating because you can't destroy those enemies. They're invulnerable to your shot. They don't count for the against you for the completion of getting 100% of the enemies destroyed. But like there's definitely situations where you'll still be just flying along, they'll fire a shot behind you, and you've kind of forgotten that they're there, and bam, you take a hit. So one thing that I kind of mentioned was the plasma, and but I didn't really talk much about like the way that you get the plasma. So there's like those cute little, like we're about to see one, space kraken is what they call them, but they're basically these cute space squid, where if you fly close to them, they'll ultimately give you a bit of plasma. Alternatively, you could also get them from shooting space crystals, but I just like that you've got these cute little, basically space squids like flying around that help power you up for the stages that you're fighting. Just cute little attention to detail. So another thing that I really love about this game is just how bright and colorful the stages are. So in the case of like this stage, and there's another one that I'll go and show here in a bit, they kind of give me almost like a Twin Bee vibe and how colorful and whimsical the stage is. So that retro inspired like graphics definitely shining through really strongly in this particular title. In addition to that, another thing I really like about the stages is once you get past the first stages, you've got some unique elements that are present in all the stages. So, or basically a unique stage feature. So in the case of this stage, it's these bubbles. Then in the case of another stage, it might be like fire and like lava. Another one has ice, another one's wind. And the final stage is spikes that are going to crush you and frustrate you until you want to pull your hair out. But that aside, I do appreciate just the difference in the stages that the game has, even if sometimes it can get frustrating. So we're going to find ourselves fighting the second stage boss. So each boss, even after you've played them, will have this like quick paragraph that you can skip on the Switch by pressing the B button. So we find ourselves fighting the second stage boss, and this boss uses the stage's bubbles partially as his weapon. In addition, it also fires some turrets at us. But at this difficulty setting, as powered up as we are, we made really quick work of him. Even as far as I did take some hits, but with how upgraded the armor is, it's hardly noticeable at all. Stage clear, we collect our gold, we get our stage summary, and we can move on to the final stage. So that I'm going to go and show you, which is stage 4, the Vulcan System. So we'll drop down to Rookie and show you Red Wing. This is the stage you pick Red Wing up in, but it's definitely a good one to show off our space dragon, as it were. Since the robot flying in space, robot doesn't need a spaceship. The lizard guy has a spaceship, but the dragon is just flying in space. So one of the reasons I wanted to go and show this stage is I just love the visual look of it. It's so bright and colorful. Once again, it kind of gives me that Twin Bee vibe. And you can also see the unique element of the wind. So you've got these various fans that will blow your character around, and in certain situations it makes actually the stage quite difficult in some areas. So there you have it. That's Hyper Echelon served up for your enjoyment. Really, there's a lot here to enjoy, but as far as the minus flavors are concerned, so this is kind of a double-edged plus and minus. The game is incredibly grindy. So you saw all you could go and upgrade. So in order to upgrade all of that, you're going to be playing through the stages a ton. And even sometimes just to get to the point where you can easily complete a stage that is giving you some challenge, there might be some quite a bit of grinding to upgrade what you need to get through the stage. There's also just the point where some of the stages themselves can get pretty frustrating in what it's throwing at you with the various level design, especially the last stage. But there's other stages that can be frustrating. This one has even had its challenging parts when I was first playing through it at a weaker power. But on the plus flavor, I love a game that gives you the options to upgrade your ship so much. And then there's also the co-op element of this, having the various wingmen that if you were if you did not have a co-op partner, as I mentioned, a wingman would kind of be positioned beneath your ship at a 45, kind of pinned to that, and it would be kind of like this, and it would be difficult to control as they move tied to your ship, and so but they take hits normally, so you have to dodge for not only yourself but also for your wingman, and that can be pretty tricky and ultimately result in either you or your wingman taking hits and losing a stage. So it's definitely this is a game I recommend playing co-op. There's also a fair bit of replayability with the additional difficulties. If you're looking to 100% this game, you're going to be spending quite a bit of time with it, and also with Boss Rush and the survival mode being this great endless score attack challenge. I think there's a lot to enjoy in this title, and it's definitely worth the value in my opinion. Well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week, and We'll see you next time.